Let's get started. Welcome everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, even good morning, depending on where in the world you are joining us from tonight. My name is Kate Bertain, and I first like to introduce myself as a proud Rutgers alumna, and secondly, as a staff member who is truly honored to be serving as the acting executive director for undergraduate admissions at my alma mater. Welcome to our admitted student town hall, where I'm pleased to be joined by so many of my wonderful colleagues at the university who are here to answer the questions you might have regarding your fall campus experience. We'll start with introducing our fearless leader of the New Brunswick campus, Chancellor Molloy. Welcome, Dr. Molloy, and thanks for being with us here tonight.
Kate, thank you very much for inviting me. It's my pleasure, of course, to be here. I'm really looking forward to talking to the students this evening and working with you all, of course, to get some of our messages across about what I hope will be a very, very different and positive fall experience.
Excellent, excellent. And so I will also take some time to introduce our wonderful panelists. We're joined by Dr. Salvador Mena, the Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, which has him obviously very much involved in the student life experience, which you'll be having this fall. Dan Morrison, our Executive Director of Residence Life, responsible obviously for all things housing, which is equally as important for your fall experience. We have with us Sherelle Watson Hall, our Director of Financial Aid, overseeing the financial aid component. We have Dr. Carolyn Molloy, our Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education, so obviously playing a very large role in your academic experience this fall. And we will be soon joined by Tony Calcato, our Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer. He's actually meeting with the President right now. He serves in a very critical role as he's responsible for public safety, crisis, and emergency management. So also a really good voice to have here on the panel tonight. So as we get started, I think it's really important for us to start by recognizing that we know you have been through a lot this year. And now you're being asked to make a very big decision, where to go to college. And so you may not have set foot on any college campus this year, and perhaps even Rutgers in any kind of official capacity. So we acknowledge your challenges, and that's why we're here tonight to try to ease your decision making, answer your questions so that you can confidently move forward with your choice for college. In addition to being in all of the challenges that you've gone through these last 13 months, I'd be remiss if I didn't congratulate you on being admitted. You finished strong despite the challenges. Your work ethic, your grit, your perseverance tell me already that you would be a great fit in the Scarlet Knight community. You have been admitted to a very elite institution. Rutgers University New Brunswick is the leading public institution in the state of New Jersey. We are a top 25 public institution nationally, and we are a top 100 world university. So indeed, many reasons to be proud of yourself. So moving into our program, many of you are wondering what the fall will look like on campus, not only at all colleges, but specifically here at Rutgers, so that you can make your decision. And I assure you, since last March, our institution has been working around the clock to make sure that we can deliver a world-class education to you in a safe manner. And so based on what has been released this far, I can say we will be open for fall. Housing applications been released. Classes will have an in-person component, but you don't need to hear that from me. We have this esteemed panel here to share all of these wonderful details with you, so that you can have your questions answered. So Chancellor Molloy, let's start with you. You recently sent out a statement both to continuing and to incoming students about what they can expect upon arriving to campus this fall. Can you tell us a little bit about what that vision is?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And again, Kate, thanks for inviting me today, and welcome to everyone who's listening in. This has been an extraordinary period of time this last year. I know that it's frustrated and really set many students back on their heels thinking about trying to finish high school or where you're currently studying in a remote setting for the most part. really disconnected from most of your friends and often your family. I am very, very optimistic about the changes that are happening due to the vaccination policies in the country and the fact that we're really getting ready to be back to normal in the fall. As you know, of course, Rutgers is requiring students to be vaccinated. And of course, we're strongly encouraging most faculty and all faculty and staff to be vaccinated, and most already are actually. We know that we need to get back to normal. President Holloway, our new president, who's really been doing a fantastic job in his first year, in his first virtual year on campus, although he's been on campus, certainly has set the tone for us to be open. Normally, we'll be accepting students into our dormitories. Rutgers has a very large housing component that Dan Morrison actually oversees in and others in student affairs. We're very optimistic that we can fill up our dorms. We're looking to open the safest campus possible, probably the safest campus in the United States. And Rutgers really has an enormous amount of expertise in handling the COVID crisis. As you know, we were on the front lines. We developed the first saliva test that was approved by the Food and Drug Administration. And it's been used 6 or 7 million times actually to analyze COVID over the past year or so. We've been strongly committed to research on COVID. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually still a licensed pharmacist, but actually a medical scientist in my own training. We really have developed policies to make this campus as safe as possible. We will be delivering education fully continuous, as we have been doing remotely. But as Kate alluded to, more than a large majority, more than 70% of our campus courses will have either full face-to-face or a hybrid option for students to be in class. And we'll be looking over the semester to see whether we can even relax some of that and make that more flexible. Of course, because of the pandemic and the unknowns medically, there's a possibility that would have to shift, but we have those, we know how to do that now. I do not expect that to happen. If anything, I'm more optimistic that things will be more open as we move into October and November than we think they will be even in September. I've had 2 daughters that went to Rutgers. One is actually currently a senior. She's excited to get back to being on campus. And I've been very excited to have them around. And of course, they've been very supportive. Of course, we are going to be welcoming a large class of we expect around 7,000 freshmen in our class. And Kate is nodding, and I'm glad to see that actually. We have students from all over the country and quite frankly, all over the world. At this university, we have students from almost 100 different countries attending Rutgers in either undergrad or graduate programs. It's a tremendously diverse population of students that really is an exciting part of a campus environment to actually be in. And I think I haven't said yet, I'm also a Rutgers alum, and I was the first in my family actually to go to college. So I understand even the first generation students and how it may seem daunting, but also quite exciting. The last thing I want to say before I hand it over to the rest of my colleagues, we're really looking for a normal fall. Okay, we're looking for a face-to-face and live in campus. Admittedly, we'll be requiring masking certainly for some time until we get to the correct kind of herd immunity. And of course, following all the state regulations. But I expect to see over the summer that this will be more and more relaxed as the percentage of our citizens and the percentage of people on campus are fully vaccinated. And again, the vaccines are the way out of this pandemic. Even if you've had COVID before, the vaccine protection is really important as some of those variants have popped up. And it's pretty clear that they essentially don't escape the vaccinations. And I do recognize that while we're in the midst of a pandemic, what you should all recognize is this university will keep everyone completely safe as possible. We have the physicians, we have the expertise, we now have the experience actually in conducting that. And I'm looking forward. I'm probably the second most excited person. I think the president of the university, who has not seen this campus alive, is probably the most excited person, but we won't disappoint him actually in the fall with what we do at Rutgers.
That's great. Thank you, Chancellor Molloy. A lot of great information. And if our, if for our audience, if you took nothing else away from all of that, I heard loud and clear that students can expect a more normal experience. And then I think that was, so clearly articulated in very specific examples that the Chancellor provided. So thank you for that. So in thinking about a more normal, if you will, experience, I'm going to turn my next question to Dr. Mena. In terms of student affairs, what can new students expect in terms of student life, activities, and events?
Yes, well, good evening, everyone, and thank you again for inviting us to be part of this panel. And so just to echo what Dr. Molloy said, the vision, the goal is to have a vibrant in-person experience in the fall. And so with that said, students should expect a normal college experience filled with events, activities, and opportunities to engage and get involved. Certainly, assuming we don't have the restrictions that we've had this past year in place, again, we'll be working hard to make sure that last year's class and this incoming class have all the opportunities that they deserve available to them. And so we've got over 500 student organizations. We are going to be hosting our normal slate of programs and events throughout the course of the year. We may have to maybe limit how many people may have to enter into a particular room size, for example, but that's not going to keep us from being together in person and being able to partake in university life. And so I'm looking forward to, again, a very vibrant, exciting fall semester and to partnering with our students to make it such. And so, because again, I know that they're eager to be on campus as well as we are for them to be here with us. And so we expect, again, a very vibrant campus life in the fall. And so it's going to be different given how we've done this past year, but that's what we're looking forward to. That's why we're working so hard to make that all possible for our students.
That's great. Thank you, Dr. Mena. When you think about a vibrant campus experience, I think that the next great segue is housing and what the housing experience will look like should students choose to live on campus. So I'm going to turn my next question to Dan Morrison and ask you to talk a little bit about the programs and safety initiatives that will be in place to allow our students to safely return to on-campus housing.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. As Kate said, I'm Dan Morrison. I get the pleasure of running a campus housing operation of nearly 16,000 students when everybody shows up, and we're excited. One thing to realize is that we've had students on campus literally since COVID was diagnosed, right? Since it was discovered and labeled. Hasn't been as large as normal, but we've learned an awful lot over the last 16, 17 months, and we'll learn more prior to coming together in August. And those lessons learned, what we're calling best practices, are everything from thinking about how we ask students to move on campus and families. We'll be asking you when move-in happens to sign up for a day and time slot to move in, so we can make sure that we don't have too many people in a big stairwell or waiting for elevators, et cetera, just for safety's purposes. We've been doing that since we had the move out process in March a year ago. And again, have learned a lot for that. And families have actually told us they like having a time slot. They know that there's going to be a place to put their car, et cetera. Beyond that, our custodial staff have been cleaning and will continue to clean multiple times a day, what we call the touch points: doorknobs, door handles, ID card swipe places, elevator buttons, et cetera. So we've got a lot of those things in place. Most importantly to understand is that we did put some policies and rules together to help everyone understand how we keep each other safe. And those policies and rules have been adapted and evolving over time. Again, we've been doing this over a year. We have some places where currently we have designated that the lounges are really too small to put people in, so we've locked those off. We hope, again, as Dr. Mena said, that we'll be able to open some of those things up. I keep telling folks that it is April, and I know it's an important time in your lives to make a decision, but 4 more months before we hit August, and a lot can change. The state of New Jersey may decide to open up policies and procedures. So we've been working on that going all the way through back to last year. We do have a plan if we do need to quarantine or isolate any students. We still have a plan for that and have been doing so again. We believe we won't have too many of those since our students will be vaccinated. But again, we didn't know that COVID was coming, and so we're always going to keep our plan B and plan C in place. But ultimately, you'll learn a lot about this. If you come, join us for what we call Welcome Week and new student orientation that will be live in August when you get here, not the traditional summer orientation. You'll be getting a lot more hints about this. Our RA staffs and student staff and professional staff all over campus will be making sure that everybody understands both the rules and policies, but really why they're there and how to keep yourself safe. We still want to have fun, right? That's the nature of this, right? The 24/7 nature of a residence hall environment. We want students to be able to meet new students from all over the world, to experiment with ideas and courses and clubs and organizations, and we're ready for all of that. It may look a little different at first, and then it will roll out as the semester goes on, but we're really ready for all of you to come back and to really enjoy the best, from the best sense of that word, your first year at Rutgers.
That's great. Thank you, Dan. You mentioned 2 things in your answer that I just asking a quick follow-up, and it might be for Dr. Mena, but you mentioned Welcome Week and you mentioned new student orientation. So those are obviously 2 fairly large programs that our incoming students need to and should be participating in. Is there anything more that you can elaborate on what those programs are going to be or how they're going to look for our incoming students?
Sure. New student orientation will take place in the earlier part of the summer. That's going to be virtual. But then in August, students are going to come back early and they're going to partake in what we call Welcome Week. And this is going to be an all-out effort to help the classes of 2024 and 2025 with providing them with opportunities to begin the process of getting orientated to the university, to provide the classes with an opportunity to get to know the university, its services, its programs, to connect with each other in person, to connect with faculty and staff, and just to become familiar with the culture at Rutgers. There'll be team building programs. They'll be able to explore the campus, to learn how to ride the buses. They'll be getting to know each other activities. And then we'll have our annual new student convocation where we bring our students together with the Chancellor and the President to be officially welcomed to the university. And so we're very excited about the prospects of what Welcome Week will do for our incoming students to help them transition to campus and get to meet their peers and begin the process of just becoming Scarlet Knights.
So we talked a little bit about the fun, and that's definitely a needed component to any college experience. But we absolutely need to talk about what's perhaps the most important experience, for college, and that's the academic one. So I want to turn this question over to Dr. Molloy and ask, can you speak a little bit about what the academics will look like for incoming students this year?
Yeah, we're excited. We're going to be having our students back in classrooms and laboratories and studios and in our libraries. Our libraries are going to be open for study and meeting with fellow students, all of that. We are allowing for more distancing in classrooms for students to spread out. We're moving classes into bigger classrooms so that students can spread out, be 3 feet apart, as currently recommended for educational settings. It does mean that we won't have our very large lectures. We're going to have a maximum class size of 100. So there are going to be some classes that are going to be fully online or hybrid, as the Chancellor mentioned. And hybrid means that there will be an in-person meeting, but there will also be some online instruction. And some of that, we've learned a lot over the last 14 months about how online education can be very effective. And some of our programs have found that certain elements of instruction actually translate quite well to an online environment. And the hybrid experience allows us to take advantage of those strategies. So for instance, some of our laboratory courses, they're going to have what was used to be the lecture component where students just sat around and listened to someone speak. That's going to be a video or an online module that students are complete before they come to the lab and then do the laboratory experiments. So really maximizing that experience in the classroom. So students will have a mix of in-person and these hybrid and online courses. We've also learned that online can be very helpful for academic services. So we are offering advising services in person. We are offering tutoring in our Rutgers Learning Centers for those parents and students out there. You have free tutoring available to you as Rutgers students as part of our Rutgers Learning Centers. Tutoring also will be in person, but students will have an option for both tutoring and advising to be online. And that's because we found that those services can be very effectively offered online. And it gives students flexibility in terms of when they schedule those sessions, and that allows them to take better advantage of those services.
Great, that's great. Dr. Molloy, are you thinking that, based on the school that a student enrolls in, that their experience in selecting classes or being able to determine what their academic experience will look like might be different by school, or?
Well, as always, our experiences are going to differ by school, right? A dance major has a very different set of classes that they need to take than a civil engineering major might, or a finance major, or an anthropology major. And so the needs of those different curricula and the way that those courses are usually organized means that students will always have those differences in terms of their schedules, in terms of the kinds of courses they take. At the same time, there will be shared experiences. Most of our first year students will take expository writing. They will be in classes with students from all of these different programs. That's one of the great things about a Rutgers education, is that you can have a very specialized, rigorous major experience, but you also can interact with students who have very different academic goals. You can be in the same classes with them. You can participate in clubs and student government with them. So that's one of the great benefits of a Rutgers education.
Great, thank you. So our next question moved into an equally important aspect, and it's how a student or family would pay for their education in order to attend Rutgers. So this question is going to be for Sherelle, our Director of Financial Aid. So for families who have already made the decision to enroll, or perhaps those that are on the call that are still waiting to make their decision, what happens if their financial circumstances change between now and May 1, or should I say after May 1? Between now and May 1 is only 4 days, but maybe after May 1 is more applicable.
Thank you, Kate. Since the free application for federal student aid, which is the FAFSA, was based on 2019 income, and realizing that many families have been affected financially by the pandemic, schools have the ability to exercise what we call professional judgment. So if your household income, as initially reported on your FAFSA, has decreased significantly due to either a loss of employment, reduction in wages, disability, or retirement, you are able to complete the 2021-2022 Change in Family Circumstances form found on our Scarlet Hub website. Also, if your parents were married when you initially filed the FAFSA and have since separated or divorced, the change in family circumstances can be utilized to update their marital status. You will need to provide supporting documentation depending on the circumstances in order for my team to swap out the 2019 income and use your projected 2021 earnings to determine if you qualify for grant funding. Once you submit the change in family circumstances form, please allow at least 2 weeks for review and determination. We do appreciate your patience, but as you can imagine, the volume of requests have increased drastically within the last year based on the circumstances that we're all facing.
Okay, great, thank you. So I think we're going to move into some of the health-related questions that maybe that Tony was going to answer. Chancellor Molloy, we're going to get you into the action a little bit and just ask you some basic questions about the vaccine distribution. And is the university planning on distributing the vaccine on campus for incoming students prior to the semester starting? And can students sign up for that?
Yes, so this has been a bit of a moving target, Kate. What as of today, actually, I've heard that we expect to actually have. Oh, here's Tony Calcata right now. We have set up vaccination centers at all of our campuses at Rutgers. Hi, Tony.
Hey.
And this is for you, Tony, but I'm leading off here a little bit. But
Okay.
My understanding is we should have vaccine within the next week or two to be able to provide for our students. And there is a sign up for this on our COVID website and the vaccination website. Tony, do you want to give a little more detail on that?
Yeah, so that's absolutely true. And I apologize for my tardiness here. I was actually on another town hall, so
No problem.
Here. We have gotten some good indications over the course of the last few days that imminently we should have vaccine. We will use that vaccine to inoculate, of course, our students and then anyone else who is looking to be inoculated. I will say this: we'll have clinics on every campus, but importantly as well, we're at a tipping point, I believe, in the state of New Jersey, where we are getting to that time where demand is there, where supply is meeting the demand, and it's fairly easy to get an appointment just about anywhere now. So I would encourage everyone, don't wait for us. If you can get an appointment, go on any one of the COVID-19 websites, typically the state site or the local county ones. I know for a fact that you could probably get an appointment that day if you go on in the morning, certainly by the next day. And I would encourage everybody. For us, we have a registration site. Go on our COVID-19 website, register at the site. We will reach back out to you with an email as soon as we have vaccine and get you set up for an appointment. So the COVID-19 website has all the information on it.
That's great. Thank you, Tony. And some of the questions that we're getting to center around whether there will be any exemptions for that policy whatsoever. I believe there are two ways in which a student might be, or three actually, ways in which a student may be exempt. Is that correct?
There's actually five, and I can go through those quickly. So the three that would really affect undergraduate students are a medical exemption, there is a religious exemption, and of course there is the pure online degree granting program. So that's something that happened pre-pandemic. That's always been, we've had that for years and years and years, and that's typically students that, maybe in Texas or something that usually are fully online, but that is an exemption. The other two are for continuing education. They're typically adult learners. One is off campus, and the other one is purely being online. So those two most do not affect New Brunswick undergrads. So the first two, medical and religious, those are the exemptions we've had forever. Students can go on the student health website. Once they're there, there's a portal that will allow you to upload the information necessary. So it's in the immunization portal. It allows you to upload the information necessary. That information is reviewed by a committee of health professionals led by our doctor, student health director. They look at that and they make a determination. So legitimate exemptions are, of course, granted. If more information is necessary, they go back and they ask for that more information to determine if there's something that's been missed. But that is a practice that's been at Rutgers for many, many, many years. You could find all that information on the Rutgers immunization portal. Typically, the easiest way, again, through our COVID-19 website or through the student health website.
Great, thank you. So we've completed our first round of questions that we wanted to ask based on what the admissions office is getting most often. But what we're doing is we're kind of monitoring the Q&A as we go to see what kind of questions are being asked live from our audience. And so I'm going to take a few of those and ask our panelists to answer some of those questions as well. So Dan, lots of questions about housing. So maybe some quick and easy ones that you could probably answer very quickly. Is there a housing application due date?
Yes, for first-year students and transfer students, they're different. So for first-year students, the priority deadline to apply for housing is June 7th. We will certainly take applications after that, and we will very likely be able to get everyone in who wants to be here. But the options in terms of roommates and locations, et cetera, will become less available the later one applies, because we do make first-year assignments based on date and time of application. So that's important to know. Transfer students have until June 30th to apply because they have a longer process to get grades from their current university, et cetera. So those are the dates. So priority deadline, not hard and fast, but do know that options become less the later one applies.
Sure. So if they get you the housing application by the June 7th or June 30th due date, when might they expect to hear from you in terms of housing assignment?
Housing assignments will likely be out no later than the second week of August. But the whole process starts, as you can imagine, we have to wait until that deadline passes to start doing things. And our computer program starts to match up and pair up and move people around and look for opportunities and openings. And so it's kind of a behind the scenes process, but it takes really those almost 2 months to kind of get everyone as happy as we can make them. So it will be sometime the first 2 weeks of August. You'll find out your room, your location, the hall, your room, and roommate name and contact information that they've provided to us.
Great, thanks. And you can actually select your own roommate should you want, as long as you both put each other's name on the housing application. You actually can room with someone from your high school or from a community organization that you might be attached to. Correct?
Correct. Yes. One, what you're describing is what we really want people to try to do is to be purely mutual, right? So I want to room with John. John sates me. We pick all the same campuses in the same order to live with. But one thing that we'll let you know is that the vast majority of our students do not come in with with matched roommates. Many do, but the majority do not. And one thing you can talk to your friends about who are also coming to Rutgers is maybe not to be roommates, but ask to try to be near each other in the same building or a building contiguous. So I meet 6 or 7 new freshmen friends. You meet 6 or 7. Now, guess what? I have 12 new friends. And what we find is you may hang out day and night your entire high school years, but it's very different living with someone in a 10 by 12 room. But yes, you may ask. We just ask students to really pair up, answer all the questions the same way, so the computer doesn't say, well, it's not really a match. So we ask you to do that.
Great. Okay, I'm seeing questions on buses. So Tony, I think this one's coming your way. Can you speak a little bit about the bus system and what changes may be made with that for the upcoming fall?
Yeah, so there was some information out about adjustment of some bus stops. We are re-examining that to make sure that we're not cutting back on service in any way, shape, or form. As a matter of fact, we're looking to add service, not pull back on service, because we want to be able to distance as much as we possibly can within the system itself. So there will be tweaks made to the system. I think some of the things we'll see are more direct lines versus as many stops, so that we can move people that much quicker, creating less exposure, of course. That's one of the issues that we're looking at. Many of the safety protocols that you see today in mass transit systems, we will do the same thing. We are the second largest bus system in the state of New Jersey, and typically during our semesters, fall and the spring semester, we run over 90,000 trips a day. We carry over 90,000 passengers a day. So it's a big system. We're also aligning better with the tweaks that have gone on with the academic offerings and the way that classes will be offered over the course of the fall. So we're just trying to align this in a better way to make it work seamlessly over the course of the fall. And we also have scooters now for those of you returning for the first time. We're coming on campus since last year. So we'll have more ways to get around than we typically do.
I've heard about those scooters. They have a great tagline. I think it says something like "another way to Zoom."
Yeah.
You know, and I love it. I love that. That's great. So let's moving back to academics, because I'm seeing questions about scheduling. Incoming students, curious about how when their first year or transfer schedules would be accommodated. So Carolyn, anything about how incoming students might be planning their schedules over the summer?
Yes, in the next couple of months, students will be working with the advising teams from their schools to create academic plans. Transfer students will be then at those times registering for their fall schedules. For first year students, we have to wait until the AP scores and IB placement tests get in. And so what happens is you work with your advising team to create a plan, and then they will work on creating a schedule for you. And those first year schedules are released on August 20th, and that's always the case at Rutgers. And then students, once they get their schedules, if they need to make changes, they again can work with their advisors to make those changes. We always find that some students who thought they wanted to be physics majors in May decide they want to major in philosophy by August, and so we can make those changes. But that's the way those schedules are created.
Great. So Sherelle, in terms of financial aid, we're seeing students having questions with what's called verification, and so they're wondering if they're selected for verification, what that means, and can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on the process?
Sure, Kate. So when you complete the FAFSA, your application may be randomly selected for a process called verification. And I promise you it's random. We're not trying to torture you, but don't fret. When you're selected for verification, it just simply means that the financial aid office is required to confirm that the income and other household information you reported on the FAFSA matches specifically requested documents. This is the case for any school you listed on the FAFSA and to which you were accepted. So this year, we're pleased to announce that the Office of Financial Aid has partnered with a company called Inceptia to streamline and expedite the verification process for students. So through your personalized Inceptia online dashboard, you have the ability to upload tax documents and sign required forms electronically. You can even take a photo of a document and upload it. So this process allows you to complete verification from the comfort of your home without traveling to and from campus to drop off forms. So if your FAFSA is selected for verification, you will receive an email from Inceptia, and it will be sent to the email address you provided on your FAFSA. The email will prompt you to log in, authenticate your identity, and create an account through their verification gateway. If you are uncertain if your application was flagged for verification, you can visit the Scarlet Hub webpage, and there's a link to check if you have any missing financial aid documents. If you intend to enroll at Rutgers in the fall, please plan to complete the verification process as soon as possible to avoid delays. And for your convenience, Inceptia also has a dedicated phone line should you have any questions, and their phone line is on our Scarlet Hub website as well as on their website as well. So if you were selected, please, by all means, make sure you take action immediately. But thanks, that was a good question, Kate.
Good, we want to make sure we clarify that for sure. So Dan, there are some eager beavers out there for housing. When might they expect to possibly move in? Should they have on-campus housing?
Sure. That number is still, that date is still a little up in the air. We have a few policies that we need to get from the COVID planning and other group. I can tell you that it's all, the crux of it really is one of the very important and exciting pieces of the beginning of the year is new student convocation. This year, we're going to be inviting incoming first-year students and last year's first-year students who weren't able to to join us. And that will be on Thursday, August 26th, probably in the late afternoon. And so normally we would start our first year housing move-in about 3 days before that. So it'll likely be sometime around the 22nd, 23rd. But as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be using the sign up for a time slot, et cetera. So that stretches things out a bit. It makes it, you can't have everybody show up on 1 or 2 days. So those dates will be firmed up very, 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 very soon. But look for it probably sometime around the 21st, 22nd of August.
Great, great. Okay, so Chancellor Molloy, we're going to bring you back in and actually save the final question for you. So for those students and families who are thinking through this important decision, in your opinion, what makes Rutgers the right choice for them?
So, I'm sitting here listening to all your answers and thinking about when I was in high school a very long time ago. And of course I went to Rutgers, as most of you know, and we certainly didn't have COVID, but it was an exciting and uncertain time in its own way. And it was terribly exciting to think about coming to a large university like we have, with all of the outstanding faculty, staff that we actually have at this university. But Rutgers is so much more than it was 40 odd years ago when I came here. We're a Big Ten university. We're a top research university in the state. We're the largest public and highest ranked research university in the New York City area. We have outstanding faculty in the humanities and the sciences. We have really exciting sports teams, a lot of buzz around football and women's basketball and men's basketball, and our soccer teams. We have tremendous amount of student organizations here, and a great deal of the education one gets at school is not only what's in the classroom, which we have that's outstanding, but really what you get socially outside of the classroom, interacting with colleagues from all over the state, all over the country, and quite frankly, all over the world at Rutgers. So the value of being at a place like this, we're going to be all excited, students, faculty, and staff, to be back. And I think it's going to be a highly unusual relaunching of a live university in the fall that's going to be kind of extra special. And I think we all, especially the students, deserve that, coming back to the fall, with 2 classes essentially coming into Rutgers at the same time for the first time. Could be pretty crazy too, but I think crazy is sometimes a really nice word in this sense of how we look at the university. It's really important for families to understand that we are going to make this university as safe as any place in the country. We have the expertise to do that. We have the commitment of our faculty and staff to do that. There's a tremendous amount of support throughout the university in all aspects of student life, and as well as education and tutoring. It's a vibrant and diverse campus. It's got over 100 majors. Students come here wanting to go pre-med and wind up being the next professors of history around the country. It's a special place, and we look forward to having you here.
Thank you so much. And I know there are also some questions going on with the admissions perspective, and just wondering if they missed the tour tonight, what they can do. There are going to be 2 more tours coming up this week at 7 p.m. So you can register on our website for that. There are also, no surprise to you, Sherelle, a lot of other financial aid questions that we were not able to get to tonight. So there is an actual financial aid session on Wednesday at 4 o'clock for students and families to actually register for and ask specific financial aid questions. As far as additional questions for tonight that weren't able to be answered, we're going to put a website in the chat function, in the chat feature, the Q&A feature for our website, in which you can connect to actually chat through our chat platform with current students. So if you have additional questions that weren't answered tonight, but you want to, you'll be able to do that. And that's going to be starting at 7:30 tonight so that you can continue to get your questions answered. Another reminder is that we are just a couple days from May 1. So we are 4 days from the enrollment due date. So please be sure to, if you haven't already, to secure your spot in our class and guarantee your scholarship should you have received one by enrolling by May 1. I want to thank everybody for their time tonight, not only my colleagues that were here, but also you as admitted students and their parents for joining us. Choosing where to attend college is very important, and we hope that we were able to answer your questions and that you're not only confident but also excited by what awaits you at Rutgers. And I speak for for all of us when I say we certainly hope to be welcoming you to our Rutgers family this September. So good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. We'll see you in the fall.
Yes.